Hello and welcome to Behind the Judging Panel, an exclusive look into the Data Center World Awards 2025. Each year, the Data Center World Awards celebrates the very best in design, creativity and innovation, recognizing the trailblazers who push the boundaries of what's possible. Ever wonder what the judges are looking for? What sets a winning entry apart from the rest? In this series, we're pulling back the curtain to show you exactly how your work is evaluated and who the experts are behind the decisions. I'm Rebecca Uppendale, tech reporter at Techirati, and today my guest is Iain Macdonald, director at Instance BV, Amsterdam and London, and judge for 2025's edition of the Data Center World Awards. So Iain, how do you think the Data Center World Awards contribute to fostering collaboration and knowledge sharing within the industry?
Well, one of the aspects of the industry that you can imagine is that we're bringing together professionals across a whole range of disciplines. And at times we can be perhaps a bit canalized or insular because we're dealing with our own piece of work, whether it's the structure, whether it's the mechanical, electrical, whether it's the planning or the architecture. And one of the good aspects of data center worlds is it's inclusive. So it brings people together, shares knowledge, and it's a recognition of the fact that it's a multidisciplinary, including the clients and the community, approach to providing essential infrastructure.
Fantastic. And as the data center industry evolves, how has the Data Center World Awards adapted to staying relevant and reflective of the current trends and challenges?
I think one of the good things about DCW is that it's looking at the way things are changing, not just broad patterns, but also in some of the more, you might say, niched areas. And those niched areas might be smaller, but they could be highly valuable or very important, such as a few years ago, AI or quantum computing would not have been really on everybody's radar, but of course it is now. So I think that DCW is able to think ahead a little bit and try and get ahead of the game in as much as they change the categories to be aware of them.
Fantastic. And the addition of the new categories like the Security of Tech Award, the AI Excellent Award, and Technology Project of the Year reflects significant industry shifts. What do these new categories signify about the current and future direction of the data center industry?
Well, the data center industry, a bit like its use class or lack of a use class, is a bit difficult to define sometimes. I mean, clearly in terms of investment, it's now one of the top 3 leading areas in real estate. In terms of its importance to the digital economy, people recognize all of a sudden you need this backbone, this infrastructure. But there are other aspects that the industry being still a bit immature, only a couple really of decades since real IP protocols in 2000, it needs to pay attention to. So not just the way we build, but the way we operate, and of course, how secure is it, because you're dealing with mission critical and very sensitive information. So adding new categories beyond just the technology, such as the racks or how the building's cooled or how a building indeed is constructed, is important, because sometimes we have to start from another area when we conceive of a project. So an example would be if you were designing a car showroom, you wouldn't design it from the point of view of the building, you would design it from the point of view of the customer experience. So we're also looking at it from the operator and the network point of view, and what happens when people are using those facilities. Hence, something like security is so important.
Fantastic. That's such a great insight, I think, to the industry. And so as a judge, what is your approach to judging submissions and what key aspects do you prioritize when reviewing entries?
Well, one of the things I try to do is, regardless of the size or the sophistication of the submission, you're actually trying to see what is it in relation to the category that you're judging. So for example, if it's innovation, are we looking at the way something's being put together in an innovative way, or are we looking at the use of certain prototype or innovative technologies? And then, of course, you're looking at, well, how successful is that implementation? And furthermore, who was involved and what has been learned from it? So you're looking at you might say the continuum of the way that a certain aspect has been approached from beginning to end. And also, and I think it's important sometimes to recognize the trial and error that may have gone into that, because that also shows an insight that's been gained by the person that's submitting it. But in general, you're trying to look for something that is distinguishing it from the other entries, and indeed, what is its relevance and value to the industry as a whole.
Do you think with these new categories, you're going to get entrants from a more broader range of companies or perhaps organisations? What do you anticipate having now come in from the off the back of those new categories?
Well, I think we will certainly see some perhaps more niched or SME type, which is a good thing. But also I think that we might see other categories in the future. In general, I think we have to think about the fact that as an industry, it's such an important industry now, and the way it's viewed by society, it's at a kind of controversial stage. So lots of energy being used, lots of natural resources, lots of emissions. How does this fit with climate change? I think we've got a few more categories to go. There is another question with urban data, which is where does this architecture and engineering fit into the urban fabric? So perception, understanding and acceptance, not by those of us in the industry, but by those who are either living with it or approving it, is very important. So I think it's an aspect that we will see design, aesthetics and other aspects becoming much, much more important. So I think the addition of new categories and perhaps the dropping out some other categories is going to be an ongoing thing with DCW.
So, and finally, can you summarise the awards in 3 words?
First of all, I would say they're relevant. As I said before about multidisciplinary, I think they're inclusive. And I would like to think that they're insightful.
Right, well, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for your time, Iain, and I can't wait to see you again next year. Great.
See you at DCW.